यही है रास्ते सफर मेरे कारवां के लिए, यही है रास्ते सफर मेरे कारवां के लिए।
Dear and respected viewers, in the 8th segment of our serialized presentation on Quaid Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah's life story, we shall be covering the following aspects: the General Council election, return of the native, then Shaheed Ganj Mosque issue, and finally, and of great importance, Jinnah and the Government of India Act 1935. Coming to the first part, that is the General Council election, India was passing through a period of increasing political unrest, and the government was ruling the country through ordinances. There was a growing feeling among politicians that as the 1934 general elections were approaching, they must enter the council with a view to fight an unsympathetic government. Ultimately, in the general elections, the Congress party captured 44 seats and the Congress Nationalist Party won 11 seats. Muslims by far and large were divided into two rival parties, the All India Muslim League and the All India Muslim Conference. A joint election manifesto was drafted which exhorted the Muslims all over India to stand united, to demand separate electorates, to agitate for adequate representation of Muslims in government services, to continue to press for the creation of Sindh into a separate province, and for reforms in Balochistan. Muslim unity, my dear viewers, thus achieved, it was felt there would be no one adequately suited to lead the Muslims in the assembly. The absence of Jinnah from the Indian scene was painfully felt by all politically conscious Muslims. Mr. Abdul Mateen Chaudhry had begged the Quaid to return to India and to lead the Muslims, as also did some other leaders, including Mr. Liaquat Ali Khan, who met the Quaid personally in London in this very connection. In the meantime, his constituency, Bombay, was most anxious to have him represented in the assembly. With this end in view, a meeting of leading Muslims was convened at the residence of Abu Bakr Beg Muhammad, and it was unanimously decided to send a telegram to Jinnah in London to give his consent so that his nomination papers could be filed in time. The Quaid agreed, and on the date of scrutiny of nomination papers, 11th October 1934, he was the only one to have filed his nomination, and consequently, he was returned unopposed to the Central Assembly. Most of the Muslim members, my dear viewers, elected joined the Independent Party, whose total strength was 22. 18 of them were Muslims, and the Quaid was elected its leader. The government of India was in a dilemma, for it could muster maximum strength of some 55 members, while the Hindus, the Congress and the Congress Swaraj Party could also command about an equal number of votes. Thus, the legislature and on its attitude largely depended the fate of all questions that came up for deliberation in the House. As soon as the House met, a report of the Joint Parliamentary Committee came up for discussion. The reforms proposed in the parliamentary report was a mere palliative conjured by the imperial government to assuage the growing consciousness of the Indian masses. Jinnah recommended to the government of India to advise His Majesty's government not to proceed with any legislation based on this scheme and urged that immediate efforts should be made to consider how best to establish in British India alone a real and complete responsible government, and with that view take steps to review the whole position in consultation with Indian opinion without delay. Mr. Jinnah said, "My self-respect will never be satisfied until we produce our own scheme. Do not relegate me only to God, but take me into consideration also," he added. He concluded his speech by making an impassioned appeal to the Congress: modify the provincial scheme, drop the central scheme, and review the whole position in consultation with Muslim opinion, with a view to establishing a complete responsible government in British India. Sharp differences in the viewpoint of the Congress and of the Independent Party, most of whom were Muslims, became apparent from the first day the debate started. Jinnah, my dear viewers, piloted the Muslim viewpoint in this all-important discussion with the consummate skill of a formidable parliamentarian. The Congress was outvoted in all divisions, and Jinnah asked that his 3 amendments should be separately voted upon. The procedure was adopted by the House, and all the 3 amendments were adopted, thus giving Jinnah great personal triumph at a critical period of the history of the Muslims of India. He proved in this debate that the Muslims were solidly with the League and looked upon the Congress as an organization hostile to their legitimate demands. Our next segment within today's presentation is Return of the Native, and the native was none other than our Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. The Quaid returned to Bombay from England on 24th October 1935, and he told the press, "The Government of India Bill has now become an act, and we all know that the Constitution has been forced upon us. It is now the duty of various leaders to put their heads together and chalk out a definite and common policy with regard to the Constitution." He resumed his duties as a member of the Central Assembly with his usual zeal and was in the forefront in attacking government policies whenever the occasion so demanded. The occasion soon came, and that was the Shaheed Ganj Mosque issue. A famous mosque in Lahore, Shaheed Ganj Mosque, which was in the possession of the Sikhs, and the Muslims wanted to get it back so as to continue to use it as a mosque. Communal tempers ran high, and the situation was taking an ugly and dangerous turn. Jinnah rushed to Lahore to use his personal influence with the 2 communities in bringing about an agreed solution. He sympathized with Muslim sentiments and could well understand why they had started a full-scale civil disobedience movement over the Shaheed Ganj Mosque. He acted as the representative of Muslims to negotiate with the government and the Sikhs with a view to arrive at a settlement. Through determined and skillful intervention, Jinnah secured freedom of Muslim prisoners involved in civil disobedience. Action taken against the Muslim press was also to be revoked, and an atmosphere congenial for carrying on negotiations was created. Upon this, the Muslims abandoned the civil disobedience movement, and the province was once again returning to normal. Among the Muslim representatives on this conciliation committee were Allama Iqbal and Nawab Ahmad Yar Khan Doltana. On the appointment of the Conciliation Committee, the Governor of the Punjab said, "I am greatly indebted to the efforts of Mr. Jinnah for his improvement in the situation. I wish to pay an unqualified tribute to the work he has done and is doing." Jinnah made significant difference by his sagacious arbitration wherever and whenever he intervened. Jinnah and the Government of India Act 1935. When the All India Muslim League met in Bombay, Jinnah moved a resolution protesting that the 1935 Act was being forced on an unwilling India. However, the resolution called upon the Muslims to utilize the provincial part of the scheme for what it was worth, and it condemned the federal scheme envisaged in this act. The resolution concluded, "The League considers that the British Parliament should take still the earliest opportunity to review the whole situation afresh regarding the central scheme before it is inaugurated. Or else the League feels convinced that the present scheme will not bring peace and contentment to the people, but on the contrary, it will lead to disaster if forced upon and persisted in, as it is entirely unworkable in the interests of India and her people." Moving his resolution, Jinnah narrated history of the previous 20 years in India's struggle towards self-government, only to find that a retrogressive measure like the 1935 Act was being foisted upon it, in which India was given only 2% responsibility and 98% was embodied in the entrenched citadel of safeguards and special powers of the Governor General. However, he blamed all the parties in the country for this, saying that they were quarreling like cats, then went to the clever monkey, that is the British, to compose their differences and to give this award. The Constitution was therefore, he said, merely the perpetuation of a fraud and against the honor of India. But what were the Muslims to do under the circumstances? He asked, "If I have to submit to it, I shall submit to it under protest. I shall see what use I can make of it. The German nation, when it was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles, signed it. If I have to deal with this constitution as the Germans dealt with the Versailles Treaty, I shall begin by tearing off as many pages as the Government of India Act has, and we shall not rest content until that constitution is replaced by a constitution which is acceptable to us." By another resolution, this session of the All India Muslim League empowered Jinnah to appoint a central election board and to affiliate provincial boards. This resolution was moved by Raja Ghazanfar Ali Khan, and it called upon the Muslims to organize themselves as one party with a progressive political program. For the first time, the Muslim League, by this resolution, decided to contest elections as an organized party. In 1936 April, Lord Lilithgo came to India as the Viceroy and immediately issued a press statement urging Indians to work the new constitution as it presented to all political parties an unprecedented opportunity to work for the political advancement of India. The Quaid made a point-to-point reply to the Viceroy's statement. referring to the justification advanced by the Viceroy in amending the criminal law in order to meet the growing tendency for breaking of law at the instigation of political parties, he said, "The Viceroy must look to the causes which disturb law and order and not take it for granted that suddenly large classes of people of India have become criminals, and therefore the ordinary judicial procedure should be departed from, and that the only method of dealing with it is by repressive measures, executive orders and detention of people without trial." Referring to the Viceroy's approval of the provincial and federal scheme as spelt out in the 1935 Act, the Quaid said, "Surely His Excellency must have seen information that the scheme of so-called provincial autonomy is not acceptable to the people, and that the natural crown of all Indian federation has been totally condemned by every section of public opinion." His pronouncement amounts to this, that the British Parliament has forced the Constitution upon India and therefore we must accept it. Replying to the Viceroy for Indian cooperation, he said, "I hope His Excellency will not follow the usual definition of cooperation and goodwill, namely, submit and do as we tell you." At this time, the Quaid undertook an extensive tour of India in order to educate Muslim public opinion regarding the stand of the Muslim League and to organize them under the auspices of the League for the forthcoming elections by setting up League parliamentary boards. Muslims seemingly presented themselves as if they were a heterogeneous entity. As Muslims in different provinces took different stands, most of them playing into the hands of the Congress and the Hindus. Sir Fazle Hussain, who was the leader of Muslims of the Punjab, had in union with the Hindus originated the Unionist Party. Just as in Sindh, many Muslims were with the Sindhi United Party under the leadership of Sir Abdullah Haroon. In Bengal, also Muslims were allied with the Krishak Proja Party, consisting of both Hindus and Muslims. In the frontier, the two brothers, Dr. Khan Sahib and Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, were openly against Jinnah and the Muslim League. There was some support for Muslim League in most of the Muslim minority provinces, particularly in the UP and Bombay. Dear viewers, I'm sure that you must have noticed that Mr. Jinnah not only championed the cause of democracy and a very fair and just law for whole of India, he also took up cudgels on behalf of the Muslims very defiantly and bravely, as was his habit in the political arena that he always displayed. God be with you. See you in the next segment. Thanks a lot.